Together we rise, together we rise, together we rise. If you believe in redemption, come and take it from another dimension.
We are back, folks. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, and I want to remind everybody that Webster Tarpley is an author. His latest book is Surviving the Cataclysm. You can get all of his work over here at InfoWars.com. A very intelligent and well-read man, well-spoken as well. Now, as we get into ClimateGate, we've read the Copenhagen Treaty here on air. The term government or intergovernmental or governmental appears over 24 times, as does the term tax over 12 times. This cap and trade is a scheme to take more from you so you have less and the establishment can consolidate power. So I want to get your take on these climate emails leaking, and now the left is running all over the place. George Monbiot, who's over at The Guardian, one of those unapologetic leftists who's written a book called The New World Order, Pro-World Government, says, you know, we can't pretend like ClimateGate isn't happening, and most people aren't going to understand, you know, why we're still right. So we really have to control this situation. Where do you see all this headed, Webster?
Well, it is an exercise in criminal genocide. In other words, high crimes against humanity under the guise of worrying about polar bears, penguins, glaciers, and ice caps. And that's always what it was. And in particular, we have this Waxman-Markey bill, right, the one that's passed the House and is now supported by Senator Boxer in a different form. It creates this speculative market in carbon offsets. Now, just the fact of doing that, that's the cap and trade part, this will probably double the U.S. export price of basic agricultural commodities like wheat, corn, but also some others, maybe rice and some others beyond that. The U.S. wheat market is the U.S. ability to export wheat is the basis of world food stability such as it is. And we know we're down to almost no reserve stocks here in the age of globalization and globaloney. And we also know that the U.S. corn export is absolutely key for nutrition in large parts of Latin America, right, the land of the tortilla and the taco. Now, if you impose this idiotic, monstrous, lunatic cap-and-trade scheme, you will, at the minimum, double the U.S. export price of those commodities. Now, we know from the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization in Rome, that we've got about 1 billion people in the world who are living at the verge of starvation. So you double the U.S. export price, several hundred million can be expected to slip off the edge into starvation and death. And that is genocide beyond the wildest dreams of Hitler. And that's got to be faced for what it is. Naturally, I say you'll double the price. When Goldman Sachs and Citibank and J.P. Morgan and Morgan Stanley come in there and start a speculative bubble in those carbon offsets, then there's no telling where the price will go. I mean, maybe it will triple or quadruple or quintuple the U.S. export price for these agricultural basic commodities. So it's essentially leaping into a world of genocide with no limit. And this is an expression of this world oligarchy, right? The idea that there's a finance oligarchy that is devoted to Malthusianism. They hate science. They hate technology. They hate modern industry. They hate the impact of those things on a social order because they realize that in a society where more rational criteria ruled, oligarchs like these would simply not be able to exercise authority. I mean, somebody like Al Gore is obviously a cretin, and he would not be able to parade himself as a pompous intellectual figure if you had a society where something other than money was ruling the roost, right? Which is what he does, right? He can do this because he's filthy rich, among other things, and he's got a whole bunch of foundations and rich elitists who back him up. So in some ways, it's a turning point in the history of the world. Now, I think there's a good chance to block this climate change treaty. I think the treaty itself is already blocked. What is now being attempted in Copenhagen is a kind of a political umbrella accord, right? Sort of guidelines for a future treaty, which also has to be blocked. And this is just as dangerous. And that's why Obama has now been convinced to go there and put his somewhat tarnished prestige on the line, right? And we have to hope that this will also be a debacle and a complete failure for him, because it'll be easier to oppose him inside the country if the world repudiates him once again, as they already did in Copenhagen on the Chicago Olympics issue. Now, the oligarchs would like to proceed as if nothing had happened, right? It's like, with issues like 9/11 truth and many other things, right? Oligarchs like to simply rule certain facts off the table, right? Because they're hysterical. They say, those facts are not facts. They don't matter. The debate is over. The debate is over. Some of these people even issue threats, right? If you don't stop saying that the debate is continuing, then I'll beat you up the next time I see you. So they'd like to continue as if the whole thing was not happening, right? We have these damning emails, but I don't think they'll be able to do that. We do have this, again, I want to call attention. Ivo de Boer, Yvodeboer. This is a Euroligarch, right? This is a European oligarch. He's obviously a member of the titled feudal aristocracy of Europe, right? The de means that he's a nobleman.